The second story takes us somewhere completely different. A small town, a coastal road, and a creature that locals have been quietly documenting for over a decade. And what they found doesn't fit any known species on Earth. Maine Coast Road. Lighthouse keepers have a saying in New England. The sea doesn't hide things forever. It just decides when you're ready to see them. The town of Hallett's Cove, Maine, sits on a narrow strip of land between a thick spruce forest and the North Atlantic. Population, roughly 400. One diner, one gas station, one road in, and one road out. Route 9A, which hugs the coastline for 11 miles before rejoining the main highway. For years, locals simply didn't drive 9A after midnight. No ordinance, no sign. Just an understanding passed down between neighbors the way recipes and grudges are. You didn't ask why, you just didn't. Elena moved to Hallett's Cove from Boston in the autumn, renting a small cottage at the far end of Route 9A, while she worked remotely and tried, in her words, to decompress. Nobody warned her about the road. They assumed, the way small towns often do, that she'd figure it out. She was driving home from the diner at 12:40 a.m. on a Tuesday in late October, when her headlights caught something standing in the road ahead. At first, Elena thought it was a person. It stood upright roughly in the center of the road, facing away from her. She slowed to a stop about 40 feet back. The figure didn't move. She tapped her horn once. A short, polite note. It turned around. The face was pale, almost luminous in the headlight beam. The features were close to human. A nose, a mouth, a brow, but flattened, like a rough approximation pressed into the wrong kind of clay. Its eyes were enormous, dark, and completely lidless. It blinked sideways. Elena described what happened next in a written account she shared months later. She said her entire body went cold. Not from the temperature, from something deeper. A biological alarm she didn't have a name for. The feeling, she wrote, of being looked at by something that understood exactly what you were and had already decided what to do about it. The creature tilted its head. Then it stepped off the road, walked to the tree line, and was gone. Elena sat in the car with the engine running for the 22 minutes before she felt her hands again. When she arrived home, she found 3 long, thin scratch marks on the driver's side door. They hadn't been there that morning. Elena went to the diner the next morning and described what she'd seen to the woman behind the counter. The woman, who'd lived in Hallett's Cove her entire life, put down the coffee pot, sat across from Elena, and opened her phone. There were photographs. Blurred, taken at night from car windows dating back years, all from Route 9A, all showing the same pale, upright shape, same flat face, same lidless eyes. "We call it the Watcher," the woman told her. "Nobody knows what it wants. It's never hurt anybody. It just looks." Local fishermen had reported it near the water's edge before severe storms. Always still, always watching the horizon, as though it was waiting for something to arrive. A marine biologist who'd visited the town 2 summers prior had seen it from her kayak, 50 meters offshore, standing waist-deep in the Atlantic, completely motionless, staring out to sea. She had published nothing. When asked why, she said simply, "Because I don't want to be the one who explains it." The third story is the one that connects all of this. Because unlike Marcus and unlike Elena, the final witness didn't just see the creature, it spoke to her. State Route 41 in rural Illinois has exactly the kind of reputation that local tourism boards pretend doesn't exist. Flat, straight. 40 miles of open farmland interrupted only by the occasional grain elevator and a single rest stop that's been closed since 2009. Cell signal drops completely around mile marker 17. Most people who drive it regularly do so in daylight, not out of policy, out of habit, out of the specific, shapeless unease that settles in the chest the moment the sun dips below the western fields. Diane was driving it at 11 p.m. on a June night, heading home after visiting her sister 3 counties over. She'd driven Route 41 dozens of times. She knew the road. She had no reason to be afraid. She passed mile marker 17. Her phone went dark. The radio dropped out. And then, in the far reach of her headlights, she saw something crouched in the middle of the road. It was low to the ground. She thought at first that a large dog had been hit and was lying in the road. She slowed. She came to a stop 15 feet away. It wasn't a dog. He was crouched on all fours, but the geometry was wrong. The limbs were too long. The spine arched upward in the center like a tent. The skin, if it was skin, was the gray-brown color of old wood, dry and slightly textured, visible because whatever it was had no fur, no feathers, nothing. Just that surface. And then it raised its head. The face was where Diane's account becomes difficult to read, without feeling the temperature drop. She described it as a human face, specifically her face, her own features, her eyes, her mouth, looking back at her from something that was absolutely not human, crouched in the road in rural Illinois at 11 p.m. She said it opened its mouth, and spoke one sentence in her own voice, in the dark, through the windshield glass. You shouldn't be here this late. Then it stood, unfolding to a height she estimated at over 7 feet, turned, and walked into the cornfield on the eastern shoulder. The stalks didn't move as it entered. There was no sound. It was simply there, and then it wasn't. Diane didn't stop driving until she reached a gas station 12 miles up the road back in cell range. She called her sister. She called her husband. She sat in the forecourt under the fluorescent lights for over an hour. She described the voice as the worst part. Not the face, though the face was enough. The voice. Because it wasn't an imitation. It wasn't close. It was exact. Her own pitch, her own rhythm, the specific way she drops the end of a sentence. It had heard me talk, she told her husband on the phone. At some point, it had been close enough to hear me talk. And it remembered. A farmer whose land borders Route 41 near mile marker 17 had, over the years, reported finding circles of flattened crops near the road's edge. Not the elaborate geometric formations of popular legend, just rough, irregular clearings. Like something large had been sitting in the same spot, repeatedly, for a long time. When shown Diane's account by a journalist the following year, the farmer read it carefully, folded it, and handed it back without a word. 3 stories, 3 creatures, no confirmed connection. And yet, the detail that researchers and enthusiasts who study these accounts keep returning to is not the appearance of the things, it's the behavior, the stillness, the watching, the sense in every account that the encounter was not accidental, that whatever these things were, they had chosen to be seen, that they allowed it. Marcus's northern clearing, Elena's coastal road, Diane's mile marker 17. All 3 witnesses reported the same lasting effect. Not nightmares, not paranoia, not the symptoms typically associated with a traumatic encounter with an unknown animal. Instead, something quieter and harder to name. A persistent sensation even years later of being watched. Not threatened, not followed, just observed. As though whatever they encountered that night had filed them away somewhere and hadn't finished yet. Whether these accounts represent misidentification, folklore, mass psychological projection, or something that genuinely has no category in the natural world, that question remains unanswered. What's harder to dismiss is the consistency. Different people, different places, different decades. The same stillness, the same eyes, the same feeling of being seen by something that understood completely what it was looking at. Some things don't need to chase you. They just need you to know they're there. If this left you unsettled, good, because what we're covering next might be worse, because at least the things in these stories stayed outside. What happens when people start reporting encounters inside their homes, and the footage they capture doesn't match anything the investigators can explain? That story is already waiting for you. Don't watch it alone.